Hey guys, it's Deborah. I wanted to talk to you guys a minute about some stuff that's happening in the sky, some astronomical signs. And here we read in Luke 21:25, it said, "There will be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars." And that's before the return of Jesus. It's in the end times when the disciples asked, what will be happening at your coming? He said there'll be signs in the sun and in the moon and the stars. So we know we're supposed to be watching that stuff. And this is a chart here that I got from the channel End Time Dream and Vision. And he said it's okay to, to take a picture of the chart. So I wanted to share it on my channel. So I don't 100% agree with everything that's said on that channel. He follows a prophet named Kim Clement, and some other things. I don't 100% agree with everything he's saying on that, and some things that man has said. I don't know him too much, but I only have seen one video, and he called the rapture crapture. So I don't want to get into a whole thing on Kim Clement, but I just wanted to put that disclaimer. But this, I care about the person's heart and their fruits and stuff. And End Time Dream and Vision channel has a lot of fruit, and I can see his heart is, right. So anyway, so I support that part of it. Anyway, so he has this chart, and he said that he calls them penumbral blood moons because basically they're a pink moon. But he found this pattern that June 9th and 10th, there's one. Then, January 9th and 10th. Then June 5th to 6th, July 4th to 5th, and November 29th to 30th. Down below, you see it says Jan, Feb, March, April. And so he has the months across the bottom there. So I'm going to tie this in and show you how it kind of fits with certain events and some other things. And his video, I think it's his latest video. So his channel is called, again, End Time Dream and Vision. And he does this really amazing ministry with regards to giving out free Bibles all around the world. It's called Feed My Sheep. So I actually did want to, support that ministry as well, because that's a huge, a great cause to get Bibles all over the world. So anyway, back to this. So what he was saying in the video, and if you want to check it out, like I said, I think it's his latest video. Basically, he goes into a lot more detail, but the overall point is that January 9th and 10th is around when the pandemic started. And then June 5th and 6th and July 4th and 5th kind of surround all this rioting. Well, we don't know about July, but for sure June. That's the time of all this rioting, and I find that interesting. And then November 29th and 30th is around the elections in the United States. So I think that is very interesting to watch. Now, on another channel, Hourly Watch, the brother and sister, they're husband and wife, but brother and sister to me in Christ, they have this chart, and I've talked about it before, and they show June 20th, which kind of and 21st, which lines up with, like I said, the other thing the other chart kind of showing about around the time period of all this rioting, and it's the Ring of Fire eclipse, and you have the blood moon eclipse June 6th, and then July 4th, and then here the Ring of Fire. So there's a lot of stuff in the sun, moon, in the moon, in the stars, in the sky astronomically, and you see here that it says the Ring of Fire, and I've said before that's a term for birthing a baby, which reminds me of Revelation 12. Ring of Fire means the head is being birthed. So could that be a sign? We shall see. But I think it ties into the other chart that I mentioned on End Time Dream and Vision. And then you see here that on June 21st, you have a solar eclipse in Jerusalem. So again, all in June, a lot of stuff in the sky that we're watching. And I did find it, like I said, interesting that it's kind of lining up with huge events that are happening, like the pandemic. It's lining the tetrad that he was showing. And then you have these riots that are now all around the world, or I shouldn't call them riots, protests. And then it ends off his chart in November with the elections. That all lines up. I don't think this is a fluke. But like I said here, this is pretty interesting that they have this solar eclipse in June, and there is so much happening right now in June, and almost time for that annexation situation going on with what they're doing with the government. And then here, this was from Hourly Watch again. And this all happened before all this, but you see another tetrad, the 4 supermoon tetrad on 4 Jewish holidays. I'm just trying to like show you guys that we're to be watching the sky. There's so many verses talking about that, and it's for tracking times and seasons. And the sun will go dark, and the moon will turn to blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Plus, they said, what will be the sign of your coming? And I just read you that verse in Luke 21, that there'll be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. So you see, this is crazy that there's a tetrad of 4 supermoons all on 4 Jewish holidays this year that all precede this other chart that I just showed you. I don't think that's a fluke at all. I think this is more signs that, like, if they're all falling on Jewish holidays, I think it's a sign that we're supposed to be watching even more intensely. So what does that all mean? Let me go back to the chart from End Time Dream and Vision, and I'll just wrap it up with that. So you see here again, it ends on November 29th and 30th, which I forgot to check out the exact date of the elections, but I'm pretty sure it's around then. So this just to me says that there are a couple options. Like, one option could be, because the annexation happens in the beginning of July, that brings upon sudden destruction, and it says, then they shall not escape. It says, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come, like a woman in travail, and then they shall not escape. But it says, we shall escape. And that word escape I've talked about before. The origin of that word is the same as in both verses, where it says they shall not escape, but it said, pray you're accounted worthy to escape all that is coming upon the earth. So that word escape is the same. So anyway, basically in July that could happen. If that did happen, and the rapture happened at the same time, because sudden destruction came upon the land for dividing Israel. And I said again, June is around these protests and riots, July would be annexation. Then what happens in November? That could turn into the 7-year peace treaty instead of turning into the election, Trump's election. It could turn into basically the beginning of the tribulation. So we'd leave in July, and then in November, there'd be this gap from July to November. And then in November, it would be, confirming a covenant with many for 7 years. So that covenant, that peace treaty that was set up, that could be like a forerunner, and then it's confirmed, because whatever happens, whatever the Antichrist sets up for 7 years is already in existence, and he confirms it. So that's one option to see how this could lay out. And then the second option could be that, sorry to say, could be that everything happens next year, and that this is lined up so that, again, the first blood moon happens in January, like representing the pandemic. Then June is the riots and protests. Then July represents the annexation, and then November would represent the election, where I believe President Trump would do a next term. And then we would carry on till next spring. Now, that is obviously not what I'm wanting, but that's the second option. The first option, like I said, would be July being the annexation, bringing upon sudden destruction, and then a time of like disaster and picking up the pieces. And then November, the covenant's confirmed, and then, everything's put back in order under the new world order. I just have to show you guys both options, because the thing is, every time I ask the Lord very specific about him returning, I don't get an answer. But if I ask other questions, I get answers very clearly. So it's obvious he doesn't want me to know the exact moment at this time. And so other things he'll answer me very quickly right away. But things that he's answered me help me to deduct, to know how close we are. So I won't get into that now, but there's things he's answered me, so then I know that it's like, I would say this year or next, or there's a little bit of stretch there, but that's what I've been shown. Whereas when I ask specifics, I don't get the specific answer. But I'm lining this up because I'm just showing the two possibilities of how these moons could be showing us time frame and where we're at. And I just, like I said, I don't think it's a fluke that there was the 4 previous supermoons landing on Jewish holidays leading up to this. And then from what I understand, there's no more blood moons for a very long time, like till 2024 or something crazy. Maybe it's not the blood moons, but I know there's a huge gap after this point. So, like I said, I don't want to, say that it could be next year, but that's the only way I see it, that November is setting up like the whole election. It's right around the election time. But it makes a lot of sense that July, because the annexation brings upon sudden destruction, which when things go completely, like when God starts to pour out, judgments and seals and wrath and all that stuff, then that's the time for us to leave. And then, like I said, there's this time where it's pure chaos and who knows what from July to November. And then the pieces get picked up. I feel like there is definitely going to be no other leader other than Trump and Pence in the United States. After that, I think the next leader has to be the Antichrist. And then in Jerusalem, I don't believe that someone else is going to lead after Netanyahu, and he only has 18 months to lead. After him is Benny Gantz, and I just don't believe that that's who's going to lead. So it's like these two leaders, one of the leader of the free world, and then the leader of, Israel, which is like apple of God's eye and God's timepiece and all that kind of stuff. Those two countries set the stage for how it's all going to go down. Like, we have to watch those two countries because one's leading the entire world. And from my research, I believe the United States is Babylon, and everybody's going to mourn their destruction, but I don't think that happens immediately. And then you have Israel, God's timepiece, and all this stuff. Of course, we're to be watching Israel. So, like I said, because of the annexation in July, I can't see, like, this could be it. Like, that could be it, because it would bring sudden destruction, and we're not appointed to that. And then, like I said, November would be picking up the pieces and then moving on with the New World Order and the 7 years. And I believe if it happened in the fall, it would bring you to a fall second coming, like on feast days. I didn't do the numbers or anything, but that is very interesting to me. That's kind of like the setup that I'm looking at. So I think this chart helps with that. But like I said, it could be the other way, that November is the elections and then it carries on to the next year. But like I said, it has to be under 18 months because Benny Gantz, I would want to say, like, for sure will not have his turn. Okay, I can't say 100%, but I'm like very close with the discernment gift that I have. So that being said, this is where I think we're at right now. I don't have specific dates for you guys, but I think this is huge and on the edge of our seats. And if anyone's ready to go, it is me. So I'm not trying to like say things, prolong things. But I have to be honest. And I think, like, if we just like hang on to certain days and then they pass, there's a chance some people are going to turn back to the world and try to like stop watching because it's too frustrating, which I get. So hopefully this will help you to try to hang on for up to 18 months, but hopefully not. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, and I hope it interests you guys too. Any questions or comments, just leave them down below, and I will talk to you guys again soon. God bless and shalom.